Okay, today we want to see experiment in physics. The title of the experiment in physics is that's the experiment one, which is its title is determining the volume and density of solids. Density of solids. Objective of this experiment to measure the volume V of different bodies according to the overflow method and comparing the volume measured with those calculated from the dimensions and the measured value from the experiment and determining the density rho of a solids. These all are the objective or aim of this experiment. Then one, to measure the volume V of different bodies according to the overflow method. Two, comparing the volume measured with those calculated from the dimensions and determining the density of solids. Earth theory is one of the part of the experiments. Without the theory, we cannot determine, or we cannot continue, or we cannot proceed the experiment. We should stand from a given theory, or we should start from the given theory. What the theory says for this title. For example, the density of a homogeneous substance is usually determined by measuring the mass M and the volume V separately and then calculating the density. Then density is equals to mass over volume. As a result, this formula knows unities given from those quantities, that's the mass and volume. Then mass kilogram over volume, that is meter cubed. Then the density of solids is determined by combining weighting and a volume measurement. The volumes of the bodies are determined from the volume of the liquid that the bodies from an overflow reservoir. This procedure is tested in the experiment with irregular bodies whose volumes calculated from their linear dimensions. Then there must be the materials used in order to perform this experiment. There must be materials or equipment. We call this equipment apparatuses, which are used for this experiment. Easy to be apparatuses or materials. The apparatuses used for this experiment includes one set of two cubes and one ball, one set of two gauge blocks, one glass cylinder with three tubes, one graduated cylinder, one plastic beaker, 1000 ml, one precision Werner caliper, the school and lab balance or precision balance, laboratory stand, cord 10 meter, and coloring is the apparatuses used for this experiment. Used carrying out the experiment with a bent piece of wire. Press the wooden cube completely under the water and the glass cylinder. Determine the quantity of water displaced and record the value. Take the wooden cube out of the water and dry it. Measure its dimensions with a precision Vernier calipers and record the value. Determine the mass of the wooden cube and record it. Repeat the measurements with other bodies. Each time, pour colored water from the plastic beaker into the glass cylinder until the overflow tube is filled with bubbles free water, and empty the graduated cylinder. Data table includes the column bodies, type of bodies. It may be cube 1, cube 2, ball, cylinder, block, stone. And column 2, volume in centimeter cube or in meter cube. And next column, dimensions in centimeter, that is length, width, height. And last column should be mass of each bodies. Mass of each bodies must be measured by using balance. The above bodies has measured, and the volume should be compared by using the formula and by using the water that is in the overflow method. Then when if the volume of the water is known, then when we put a given cube or a given body into the water, then there is displaced water. Then the volume of this displaced water is equals to the volume of the body. That means the equal amount of the volume is displaced. The water, that is equal amount of the displaced water should be the amount of the space occupied by the body. The space occupied by the body should be equal to the water, that's the amount of the water displaced from the given beaker. Then we can also use another table that has here bodies measured volume and calculated volume by using the formula, and the formula which you use it in order to calculate the volume of that body. In the case of another irregular body, the measuring the volume of regular body is different from the other noun or regular bodies. For example, the stone is somewhat, the shape of the stone is not irregular, then it is said to be irregular. Then the formula for this volume for this stone, in order to determine the volume of this stone by using formula is impossible. As a result, we use the overflow method, or by using the water in the beaker, determining the by graduated cylinder the volume of the water and the volume of the irregular body. By comparing this, we can identify, or we can determine the volume of this irregular body. And you can compare the volumes measured and calculated by using experiment and formula. The values should be in agreement. And then lastly, we can determine the density of a given body having those quantities, mass of the body and volume of the body. Simply we can, or easily we can determine the density of a given body. Therefore, one can expect that the overflow method is suitable for determining the volume of the stone with an irregular body. This is about experiment 1, that is determining the volume and density of a solid.